either with us today new or with us as a follow-up to what we did in March. Gosh, was that not the best event? Um, it's hard to believe it's already been 6 months since we were together with your IA&B female family, where we talked about the traps that threaten to limit our effectiveness and to keep us from potentially moving to the next level in our career, but I also say in our life. By a show of hands, nope, there's not there. I can't see anybody on there. So tell me, in the chat feature, either raise your hand with an emoji or say, yeah, it was awesome or something like that to tell me if you were with us in March for that incredible event. I want to see who's with us today. Best day ever, Taylor. I agree. I'm telling you what. I have I have told more people across the country what an amazing event your IA&B team put together for you. The energy in the room was amazing. I have never ever ever in 35 years in this business been to an industry event where there was 100% attendance, but you guys got it. Um, Looked over there, not a single name badge that was not claimed. That in and of itself is huge, in addition to all the other cool things that went on. Thank you for your input. Um, I get the opportunity to speak literally all over the country, and uh, this topic is so close to my heart because it resonates with so many women that I get to meet. Now, if you were not with us in March, I want to give you just a little down and dirty summary, but I'm going to also remind those of us who were there what we talked about when we talked about active and passive traps that again threaten to limit our ability to have a positive impact on those around us, things that we might not even be aware of that keep us from moving to the next level or just straight up sabotage our careers unless we're aware of them and flip the script. Um, so we talked about two types of traps that can limit our ability to advance and have true meaningful impact as a leader, whether we're male or female. But the ones that we really leaned into are the ones that threaten women more often than most men. With active traps, we walk right into them, broad daylight, full view. Other times, would you believe we actually create them for ourselves? I know that's ridiculous, but trust me, we do. Passive traps are those that are hidden or camouflaged, potentially even something we're naive to or unaware that we're even doing it. And like the active traps, they are equally as dangerous to our career and our ability to be meaningful and impactful as a leader, as a female leader. Again, remember, some of the chronic offenders probably this bubbled up with a little bit more, but there are others that I call Sunday afternoon overdoers. But the best news is that when we step up into the bleachers, as Brene Brown points out, we get a different perspective on what might be behind those traps, those limiting behaviors. And we see those traps are usually rooted in good intentions. So I flew in some of the more common offenders. But what I did on the other side is I want you to see how how many of those traps stem from good things. For instance, not claiming credit for the things that you do might truly stem from pure humility, modesty, or just being unselfish. I personally claim the title of reforming perfectionist. But when you dig into what's behind it, perfectionism has a lot of great things that are behind it. It's a desire not to disappoint. Maybe it's to deliver an excellent result, and the list goes on as you see the good roots of the classic traps that we talked about. We identified them as limiting behaviors or even a habit, not some deep characterological flaw. Do you see those? Do you see the good roots that are truly your strengths, the gifts that you bring to the world? Because when you stop to unpack them, you see signs of amazing superpowers like diligence, conscientiousness, concern for others, recognizing the feelings and the contributions of others, even a reluctance to join the "it's all about me" competition that characterizes much of life and politics in many of our organizations. These are good things. These are likely the very things that contributed to your success already, where you are right now, even. But as Marshall Goldsmith said in his aptly titled bestseller, what got you here isn't going to get you there. Now, hear me. All leaders, male or female, must always be on a continuous path of growth. Otherwise, we stagnate and ultimately fall behind. Now, the reason I say this is because leadership is a continuous journey. It's not a destination, it's a path. Today, I want to quickly raise your appreciation of 3 capstone attributes that I truly believe make up some key ingredients to our own, what I call secret sauce as female leaders. Now, hear me. I'm not overstating when I say that these 3 distinct strengths can catapult us to a place of truly making an impact and a significant difference in our world, however you define that, but especially with those that we're called to lead. So it was May of 1986. And I was a recent college grad and a newly minted manager. And I got to open the Coach Leatherwear store in the Dallas Galleria. The store was one of only 3 outside the New York tri-state area, which was also where our headquarters, our manufacturing, and every other store in the company was located. Now, compared to the flagship store on Fifth Avenue, we were the Wild West. We were the new frontier for Coach Leatherwear, which was at the time still a privately held family corporation. The head of corporate retail operations was a svelte, middle-aged woman with a dramatic black high-low bob. The only color that she ever wore was black, including 4-inch black patent leather laser point sharp toe pumps. You see her in your mind's eye? I do. Not only was her appearance wrapped in massive intimidation, so was the way she dealt with all with whom she worked. There was only one way and one way only that she acted in order to be successful. Now, for those of you who are somewhere around my age, and I'll be 59 at the end of the month, you probably agree that this was just the rules of engagement as a female exec back in the 80s. Regardless of the business environment and circumstances, women were just expected, if not forced, to play by the rules of the men's game, even in the retail world, just like my colleague that I just described. Well, fast forward to today, and thank goodness, times have changed. We all have cell phones with all manner of human knowledge right in the palms of our hands. We don't have to wear those awful pantyhose. And somewhere in the 90s, all of our starched pinpoint shirts and bow ties, as well as those wretched man suits, all went to Goodwill. Man, you want to talk about being liberated? It was a glorious day. Well, thankfully, lots of rules have changed since those days, especially for women. Today, not only is there an opportunity, but also an expectation that all leaders adapt to the circumstances and are agile, which is one of the first of the three capstone attributes that I want to share with you today to make women more effective and how we are naturally wired with this amazing skill, adaptability. The good news is, as women, we come pre-wired naturally for adaptability. Now, I realized this as a mother of twins 25 years ago, which I will also tell you was the last time that I had short hair. Well, any of you may have noticed all of the things that you can do in motherhood, but have you noticed all the things you can do with your feet when you're holding an infant, much less two? I could turn a doorknob. I could turn up the volume on the TV. I could flip the channel. I could even let the dog out with a 3-month-old in each arm. Now, I got to say, lately I haven't had to use those mad skills as often, but I can tell you that adaptability plays a role literally in everything we do every day. Whether it's in a client conversation, an employee coaching session, or even just lunch with a colleague. Every day we're faced with situations where we need to be aware of circumstances where we need to flex, where we need to pivot and adapt. Sometimes it's in our communication style. Other times it's how we build trust with different types of people, even the way we open our own minds to new perspectives. If the COVID pandemic taught us anything, it was to be adaptable and flexing to whatever the situation called for. That might include shifting out of an old paradigm, seeking and being open to new and fresh perspectives, even potentially needing to develop new skills. Now, circle back for a minute. Think with me about my colleague from Coach who didn't have a single flexible bone in her body back in those days. Now, I didn't keep up with her after I left Dallas. But my guess is that in order to continue to be successful in that changing world around her, she had to learn some new skills of adaptability. I guarantee you that after Sara Lee bought the age-old family business and moved into the publicly trading marketplace, in order to continue to grow with that new organization, she had to have learned to adapt, or it really would have killed her career then and there. She had to have adapted to the changing landscape of the business climate, the changes in the corporate Sara Lee retail strategy, even the new types of products and materials that challenged the time honored traditional 6-ounce cowhide handbags that had been the staple for generations of Coach lovers, including me. So I want you to think about your own life and your career, how you have either adapted on the fly or how you've learned to adapt and be agile. And I want you to give yourself some credit for what you've been able to do. And especially don't overlook that the fact that this is a unique ability that you as a woman have, and work to keep honing that and using it as one of your superpowers, because it is. Emotional intelligence has gotten a lot of play out there in the business book, article, and even podcast marketplace. But the second ingredient to our unique blend of female leadership is what I want to propose to you today is called relational intelligence. Relational intelligence is all about our ability as humans to connect with others and establish trust. Women are naturally relational beings. We are absolute rock stars at forming, nurturing, and maintaining relationships, outpacing our male colleagues most of the time, especially when it comes to depth and breadth of our peer to peer relationships. We are great at connecting, engaging, and energizing those around us. For some of us, it comes quite naturally, but for others, it takes intention and focus. As a young manager and mother of twins who were in Mother's Day out from 9:30 to 2:30, 3 days a week, on those days, I hit the door of the office at 9:35 with my head down. I usually skipped lunch unless it was with a client, and I stayed laser focused until 2:25 when I grabbed my briefcase and ran back out the door to pick up the kiddos. And we all know the 80-20 rule, and it is true in our agencies for sure that 20% of our clients make up 80% of our revenue. And if you haven't looked lately in your organization, I bet you'll find that as well. So not only was I the one who cultivated the relationships with most of the large commercial clients who made up that lion's share of our total revenue, I also continued to be the lead producer after I had tripled the agency volume in the first 2 years that I was back. And somewhere along the way, in all of my spare time, I found the energy to create a cluster and manage 7 other agencies that relied on this group for carrier contracts and profit sharing maximization. I got to say, I was highly efficient. But here's the thing, I hardly knew what was going on with my staff. My staff that I would tell you now, and I believe wholeheartedly, that I was called to lead. Well, thankfully, I woke up one day and I engaged with a business coaching relationship where I learned these critical soft skills of a leader. And I began engaging with my staff and I continued to grow as a leader. And that was 30 years ago. Today, in our new world of work, where behavioral skills have to equal, if not exceed, technical skills, I've been inspired by HR guru Josh Berzing, who refers not to what has previously been called soft skills, but what he calls, and I believe more aptly describes these things as power skills, which apply in both life and leadership in the workplace. It's through our relational intelligence and our power skills that we as women are so much better able to connect with and influence others, as well as build trust, manage conflict, and communicate effectively more than ever before. To illustrate this, I want to quickly share a story from a previous My Network season. I want you to meet Catherine. And yes, her name and her photo have been changed to protect the innocent. Catherine was recruited away from a very successful media sales position with a thriving television network. She had received the high quality training that you'd expect for a producer, and she was energized by the opportunity to create a new private risk practice in her agency, which was focused on providing white glove service to high net worth clients. Now, when I met her, she was just 18 months into her journey. And sadly, the agency principals hadn't yet delivered on their promise to introduce her to their key commercial clients. She only had a tiny little marketing budget, but no true guidance on how to go about building this department, and didn't just feel alone. She was alone. Well, over the weekend following that coaching session with Catherine, I thought about 4 women who I had gotten to work with through my network facilitated mastermind group that I led. So Monday morning that followed that weekend, I shot a quick email to those 4 women in hopes that they would agree to meet with Catherine and talk about their journey, as well as offer some guidance and even encouragement out of the well of experience that they had had. Would you believe that just inside of minutes, 3 of the 4 women responded with enthusiastic comments like, "Sure, I'd love to help. Absolutely. Share my contact information. Have her get in touch with me." And by the afternoon, I'd heard from the 4th with the same answer. "Of course, I'd love to talk to Catherine." By the end of the second day, Catherine already had had 2 calls set up, and the other followed quickly thereafter. And you know the rest of this story, the history. It was amazing. This, my friends, is the 3rd attribute that make women such great leaders: our hearts. Here's the thing. None of those women likely ever stood to gain professionally from Catherine's ability to build her private risk practice, her production, or any measure of her future success in such a specialized field. Yet, they all immediately jumped at the opportunity to meet with her, and she was eternally grateful. I say was, is eternally grateful to have had the opportunity to meet with them and all that they shared with her. But here's the question: why? Because these women have huge hearts. Each one of them looks outside themselves and where they can be a positive influence and impact others for the greater good. Who knows? Maybe they saw themselves in Catherine a decade or 2, even 3 ago. Maybe they remembered someone who came along beside them and helped them along their way, sharing sage advice and encouragement that made an indelible imprint, a human imprint on their careers as well as their lives. I don't know for sure what was behind each one of their individual responses, but they were all eager to help another. And that said it all to me. They all have a heart to encourage, to empower, and enhance the lives of others, which is also what we as women can aptly leverage in our leadership and make a difference in the lives of those we're called to lead. Because making a difference is ultimately what it's all about. It's what it's all about, and what makes women such great leaders all at the same time. As we talk today, we do that through things that come naturally pre-wired in us, in our DNA, as well as the things that we do intentionally to continue to grow as impactful female leaders. So ask yourself, are you growing? Are you growing as an individual, as a leader? And then ask yourself, how can you keep growing as an impactful female leader? Well, the answer to that question is easily as varied as the number of us on our webcast today. But the one thing that I can almost guarantee you about most all women is that at some level, everyone falls prey to the same pitfall that keeps us from growing, which is failing to make ourselves a priority, much less our personal and our professional development a priority. Too many women I talk to every day as a result of my career and my calling let every other thing push themselves down their priority list. So let me encourage you first to put yourself on the list. Choose to invest in yourself. Now, hear me. I'm not saying get all selfish and stop doing things for others or responding in a crisis or even just doing your job. What I'm saying is to keep yourself as well as your personal and your professional growth, even sanity, somewhere near the top third of your priority list, and then stay there. Those of you who were with us in March, you heard me say this. I say this almost every day, 4 or 5 times a day, if not more, when I'm talking to women. This is a chronic pitfall in our lives. And I'm a living, breathing proof. I would just say I'm a reforming. I'm reforming in that area. But make it a priority, even just to set time aside each week to have coffee with yourself, to recharge your battery, to focus and refocus. It's the only way to be creative. Whatever it is that helps you to be your best self, because that's what everyone around you needs from you as well. Maybe you got this book, How Remarkable Women Lead, as your gift at the conference in March. It's written by the McKinsey Company Leadership Project team. Team leader, Joanna Barsh. The book came out of a massive 4-year study to learn what drives and sustains successful female leaders. They interviewed thousands of women and a few good men all over the world. Those who are successful in diverse fields. Some lead 10,000 people and more, others fewer than 5. And while the specifics of their lives were varied, each one shared a goal of making a difference in the wider world. All were willing to discuss their personal experiences and provide insights into what it takes to stay the course of leadership. The study led to a fascinating outcome, which is called the centered leadership model, and it's detailed in this book extensively. So if you got the book or you're planning to get it, use the centered leadership model to get an idea of where you might need to focus, maybe a little bit more, perhaps honing your centered leadership quotient, so to speak, in the 5 areas that are included in the book. Perhaps you need to just get a plan for rounding out your unique skills that we talked about today, as well as what are in the book, and keep growing as an effective and an impactful leader. And if you're really ready to level up your leadership game, we would welcome you to apply for my network facilitated mastermind group. Those groups are launching now for a late October kickoff. Oh man. My network is a nationwide facilitated mastermind group. One type of table that we host are where our roots began, and that is dedicated to female leaders who are all on the same path to being impactful leaders in the insurance space. In addition to our female executive principal owner officer track, we also have two other tracks for middle managers, which might be account managers, account execs, as well as for producers. We have female only as well as mixed gender groups. So I thought I should toss that in, but you know who my favorite groups are to lead. Each one of these tracks is dedicated to the unique needs of each group for professional growth and creating community. Our 8-month season begins in October with monthly 1-hour meetings in a peer-to-peer web-based or virtual setting. There are 5 different types of interactive meetings that are all led by a seasoned professional facilitator. Each participant also receives 2 executive coaching sessions with your network facilitator as a part of your membership. And new last season, each membership includes now either a Colby strengths assessment or a Clifton strengths assessment, which is the basis for your first one-on-one coaching session. And it depends on the certification of your network facilitator. Each month, you'll also be matched with another member of your network for an informal one-on-one kind of meeting to get to know each other better. This can be as quick as a 20 or 30-minute phone call, but most of the time I hear them going upwards of 45 minutes or longer when you find out how much you have in common with the others at your table. So the total monthly commitment averages about an hour and a half, which, listen, is a whole lot less than we should be investing in our own personal and professional development. But that's a soapbox for another day. We're excited to announce that through your membership in IA&B, you're eligible for a really nice discount off the retail seat as well. Now, joining us on our webinar today is a truly remarkable woman that you may already know in your IA&B ranks, but if not, make sure to get this gal on your LinkedIn network group. Find Julie Webb. She's the vice president of MPB Financial in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. If you don't already know her, you should. She's an amazing leader, focused on growing both as a person and a professional, but especially growing other women. She has a passion for investing in and growing the next generation of women, beginning right in her own backyard with programs for women of all ages. We wanted you to meet her and hear just a bit of her story related to her path as a female leader, as well as a 3-season My Network veteran. So, Julie, thank you for sharing with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. It's always great to spend time with you and female leaders in our industry. It's great to have everyone on one call or as we were together in March. So as Sarah mentioned, and thank you for that great introduction, I head up MPB Insurance, which is a division of Mid-Penn Bank here in Harrisburg. And I started that agency in March of 2020. I like to caveat that with, yes, that March. And I was about 15 years into my insurance career when I started MPB. And I had always found myself in circles, connecting with people and learning from people and leading groups. And as I know all of you can relate, in March of 2020, I found myself alone, employee number one. There were no other employees, building an insurance agency within a financial institution. So I have the foresight or the hindsight now, I guess, to look back at it and be thankful for that time that we had to grow the agency in the thick of COVID. But I'll tell you, by the summer and into the fall, certainly, I was lonely. And I'm sure there's others on the call who can relate to that. Even if you're surrounded by a team, sometimes it can be really lonely at the top. And I was lucky that late 2019, I think, or maybe even early 2020 before the pandemic, I was on a webinar just like this one, and I heard Sarah talk. And I remembered her and I remembered her name, and I connected with her and learned about the My Network groups for the first time. And so in fall of 2020, I joined my first My Network table. And it was such a blessing. It was exactly what I needed. I was connected with other women across the country who really saw me, and women who I didn't have to explain myself to. They were moms like me, sisters like me, wives like me, leaders like me, and we just got each other. And so as Sarah outlined, we would meet monthly through My Network, but the real value that I find in the My Network tables is those monthly matchups that Sarah mentioned. And she's right. We would schedule one-on-ones with each other. We'd block off a half hour, maybe 45 minutes. And usually it was an hour and a half until we were done getting to know each other, talking, sharing best practices, sometimes commiserating with each other, but mostly lifting each other up, and empowering each other. So those connections, from that first table, I would say I still keep in touch with many of those women. It'll be a text to say, hey, I'm thinking about this. What would you do? Or, hey, do you know this person? On the second My Network table that I was on, it was all women focused in the high net worth personal line space. And so I was able to make connection with a woman who is in Florida. And as all of you, I'm sure, can relate, it's great to have that connection when you get a Florida property or client that you need help with. So not only was the connection important, but the resources that it opened up to me were also important. One of the My Network table mates of mine introduced me to another woman who runs a national networking group for women of all industries. And through that connection, I launched a women's business league here in Harrisburg, again, looking for that connection, but that came through a My Network table. The last thing I'll say, and then I'll turn it back over to Sara, is, she also mentioned the one-on-one coaching that you get with Sara if she's your facilitator or whoever facilitates your My Network table. And you might have seen the investment on the last slide. Those coaching sessions, if you look for that outside of My Network and outside of the discount that IA&B is offering, you'll pay that for just one coaching session, one executive coaching session with someone. So I would be happy, as Sara said, to connect with you on LinkedIn and talk to you more about My Network. But I would just echo what Sara said and invest in yourself and lean on your agency or your company to help you with that investment. You won't regret it.
Wow. Talk about full. Thank you, Julie. That I am honored by your comments, and I know that the gals that are on the call today, your experience and your story resonates with them. So thank you for that. Thank you for taking the challenge of making a difference in your world and not just going with it. You are running with that ball. Just on last night, I noticed on LinkedIn the young woman who you are mentoring and brought in to your organization to see what life in our industry is all about. That's the kind of stuff we need to be doing on a regular and consistent basis, because we gotta let folks know that our industry is in fact both sexy and exciting, because we need those Ananyas joining our ranks, the very women that Julie is getting attention to our industry, and more importantly, encouraging them as future women in our world. So thank you so much, Julie, for what you do, and thank you for those kind words about My Network. I know we've thrown a lot at you in a short amount of time. So when you come up for air and you have questions, you want to learn more, let me encourage you to visit our website. There's some great videos of women and men who are continuing to grow as leaders, as managers, as producers. Again, there are 3 network tracks that are devoted specifically to the unique needs of these key roles in our industry. Maybe you're inspired by Catherine's story that I shared earlier. If that's you, you'll be pleased to know that we have a formalized mentoring program to connect gals like Catherine with other amazing women in such a way that it benefits truly both the mentor and the protege in exponential ways. We're always posting all kinds of fun things on our social media tracks, informational videos, testimonials, tips and tricks. So find us on LinkedIn and wherever you enjoy social media. Of course, now I got to tell you, the clock is ticking on season 9 that kicks off the last week in October. So when you're ready to level up your personal and your professional development game, apply for a seat at a table on our website under the join a table option. If you have any questions at all, just reach out to your IA&B team or me. We're all happy to be involved. As a matter of fact, Jess sits at a My Network table that is specific to her role in the state association. She gets to sit with women all across the country who do, for the most part, I'd say 90% of the same job that she does. And so it is equally an iron sharpening iron relationship. And I'm sure she'd love to share with you her experience as well. So as we close, I want to share with you one of my favorite leadership quotes from John Quincy Adams. He said this: if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. But let me remind you that leadership isn't a destination, it's a path where we every day encounter people who give us the opportunity to make a difference in their lives as an impactful, purposeful leader. The three capstone attributes that we talked about today, and I truly believe make up our secret sauce as female leaders, is where it all centers. We use our adaptability, our relational intelligence, and our huge hearts every day to be great leaders that make a difference in the lives of those we're called to lead. To be the best version of yourself, please don't overlook yourself and how connecting and collaborating for growth with other leaders can help you continue to grow as a leader, as an individual, as a woman. And one more thing that I want to mention before we sign off. Throughout our time together today, you've watched this gal climbing up the wall seemingly on her own. But in fact, she's not alone. She's actually belayed, maybe metaphorically, to her tribe on the ground. They're always there for her. They've always been there for her, rooting her on. And to the best of their ability, they're not going to let her misstep or fall. But if she stumbles, she loses her footing, they're right there to help take up the slack in her rope to keep her from hitting rock bottom. If you're not sure who your tribe is, look around you. You may not be seeing someone or someones who are already in your corner. I know IA&B is committed to continuing this dialogue and bringing even more resources to you to help you grow and continue to grow as a female leader in our amazing industry. If my network can play a role in that, we're here to help as well. So if we have time, if there are questions, throw them out there. Either jump in. Okay. Okay. Anybody got any questions? Anything? Anything? I'm looking. Okay. Okay. Well, if you do, keep them coming. Keep them coming. It's been my sheer pleasure to spend some time with you today. Thank you, Jess, and your awesome IA&B team for the opportunity to share with you and your members. Thank you, Julie, for sharing your story with your IA&B colleagues. And thank you, all of you on the webcast today, for investing in our great industry by investing in yourself today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you again for being with us. I'll turn it back over to you, Jess.
Sorry, I needed that sign that's held up that said you're muted. Thank you all for joining us. As Sarah mentioned, I am on one of the my network tables, and I just want to reiterate what Julie said. It has been a phenomenal addition to my month. And I say that because, as Sarah pointed out, it's an hour and a half. And I can honestly say that is an hour and a half that I look forward to every single month, because it's just about me. And it's okay to make it just about you. So I encourage you to look into that a little bit more. This webinar was recorded, and it will be available on our Women in Insurance page on our website. And I thank you for taking the time today. And Sarah and Julie, thank you so much.
My pleasure.